Hi everybody. So today I am here this morning. It is 10:30 and I am going to be doing a progress report on my Winterween TBR for Gabby Reads' marathon that started on Friday. The first book I wanted to talk about is Coffin Moon by Keith Rossom. I think Gabby and Jan were also reading this on the reading sprints on Friday. This is set in the 1970s, and it's a horror book about a guy who is recovering from addiction and works at a bar, and a vampire walks into the bar, and the bartender, his name is Dwayne, and him and his niece Julia go on a road trip to try to get away from this vampire because he's a nasty person, obviously. So this is my first book by this author, and I really enjoyed it. And Cassandra Khaw blurbed this book at the top, and I have read The Salt Grow Heavy by her, which is a horror retelling of The Little Mermaid, which I really enjoyed. So I'm giving this book 5 stars because I love the atmosphere. It's set in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon, and it focuses on a road trip, which I really like because Dwayne and his niece Julia, go on a road trip to get away from the vampire. And this is not the first road trip book that I read this year. The second road trip book I read was recommended to me by Sunny at a Sunny Book Nook. It's called Bad Nature, and it's about a woman who works in law in New York City, and she goes on a road trip because her dad is gonna die. And yeah, she goes on a road trip from New York City to the Pacific Northwest. So it's interesting that both of these books were about road trips focused on the Pacific Northwest. If you like road trip books, check out this book. I gave it 5 stars. I also gave Bad Nature 5 stars. The next book, so this book was for the prompt for the readathon vampire book and blood red on the cover. The next book is for the prompt Backdated New Release. The next 2 books actually go with the prompt Backdated New Release. The first book I picked up to go along with this prompt is Fallen City by Adrienne Young. Adrienne Young came out with 2 new releases last year. One was called A Sea of Unspoken Things, which I agree with other reviewers who have said it is basically a recycled plot of Spells for Forgetting. This book, I will read you what it's about. In the great walled city of Izarar, political turmoil ignites a rebellion 100 years in the making. But when a legionary falls in love with the magistrate's daughter, their love will threaten the fate of the city in the will of the gods. Luca Matthias has one purpose: to carry on the family name maintaining his presence in the forum once his powerful and cruel uncle dies. But his novice ship with the city's philosopher places him in the middle of a catastrophe that will alter the destiny of his people. Maris Casparia was raised amid the strategic maneuvering of the Citadel's inner circle, and she knows what her future holds: a lifetime of service to a corrupt city. But her years of serving as a novice to lead the priestess who possesses the stolen magic of the old war have made her envision a different kind of future for Isra. When she meets Luca, a fated chain of events is set in motion that will divinely entangle their lives. As a secret comes to light and throws the city into chaos, Luca and Maris hatch a plan to create a calculated alliance that could tip the scales of power. But when an execution forces Luca to become the symbol of rebellion, he and Maris are thrown into opposite sides of a holy war. As their fates diverge, they learn that they are at the center of a story the gods are writing, and even if they can find their way back to each other, there may be nothing left. I started this book on on Friday during the reading sprints, and I am currently on chapter 37, page 326. This book is going to get 4.5 stars. I love the forbidden romance between Luca and Marius, and how the war is basically threatening to split their romance up. The next new release book I read for Gabby's Readathon is The Austen Affair by Madeleine Bell. This book also crosses over with the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR because the author's first name is Madeleine, like Paris's mean girl counterpart played by Shelley Cole. And then this book centers around the filming of a TV show based upon the Jane Austen books that I can see Joey being in. So I will read you what this is about. Tess Bright just scored her dream role starring in a film adaptation of Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. It's not just the role of a lifetime, it's also her last chance to prove herself as a serious actress. No easy feat after being fired from her previous TV gig. And more importantly, it's her opportunity to honor her mom, who is the biggest Jane Austen fan ever. But one thing is standing in Tessa's way. One very tall, annoyingly handsome person, actually. Hugh Balfour. A serious British method actor. Hugh wants nothing to do with Tess, whose Teen Choice Awards somehow don't quite compare to his BAFTA nomination. Hugh is a type A, no-nonsense Royal Academy prodigy, where Tess is big-hearted, a little reckless, and admittedly kind of a mess, but the film needs chemistry, and Tess's career depends on it. Sparks fly, but not in the way Tess hoped, when an electrical accident sends the two feuding co-stars back in time to Jane Austen's era. 200 years in the past, with only each other to rely on. Tess and Hugh need to ad-lib their way through the Regency period in order to make it back home, and hopefully not screw up history along the way. But if a certain someone looks particularly dashing in those 19th century breeches, well, Tess won't be complaining. A wickedly funny, delightfully charming story, The Austen Affair is a tribute to Jane Austen, happily ever afters, and love across the space-time continuum. So as I said, one of the reasons I selected this book for the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR was because of the fact that I can picture Joey being in a TV show like this, and I can picture him being Hugh's character in a TV show. This book gets 4.5 stars. The next 3 books I'm reading are rereads. One I forgot to take. It's in the return basket for the library. It's Julie Chan is Dead, which was a 5-star read for me last year. I read this book last year for Winterween, actually. It was a release from January 2025, and it's a thriller about a girl who's a twin, and her name is Julie. Her sister's name is Chloe. Julie lives in California and works at a supermarket. Chloe is a huge social media influencer in New York City. Chloe mysteriously is murdered, and Julie basically takes over her sister's personality to take over her social media influencer job, and the other social media influencers that her sister was friends with get murdered one by one. So I just loved all the twists in this. No spoilers in case you want to read it. So, as I just said, Julie Chan is Dead was 5 stars. The next thriller book that I'm rereading for Gabby's Readathon is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I decided to reread this because Scream 7 is coming out on February 27th. Now, I saw Scream for the first time in 2024. I thought it was pretty mediocre in my opinion. I feel like the killers were spoiled at the very beginning of the movie because they are seen in the principal's office getting reprimanded by the principal about pulling the phone call prank and threatened to get expelled if they don't stop. But of course they don't stop because then there would be no movie. I have seen spoilers of the other Scream films, and like I just feel like the whole Ghostface thing gets kind of overused after a while. And I also saw a spoiler on Facebook about who the Ghostface killer is in Scream 7, and it actually makes me really want to see the movie, even though I haven't seen the rest of them, because Courtney Cox's character, Gail, ends up being Ghostface, which is really interesting. I really want to see why she decides to be the killer. I have a feeling that Dewey, who is the cop in this movie series, ends up... I have a feeling they end up together, and maybe Dewey dies in the previous movie, and that's the reason why Gail becomes the killer. That's my prediction. I feel like maybe now I should see the rest of the movies to see the development of Gail and Dewey's relationship, because in the beginning, in the first movie, you can see little hints of it because of the fact that there's a little bit of a light between them. I don't know if that chemistry is natural, because at the time the first movie was made, Courtney Cox, who plays Gail, and David Arquette, who plays Dewey, were married. They got divorced in 2013 and have a 21-year-old daughter named Coco. But I have a feeling that they're consistent on stage, on-screen chemistry, because they used to be married to each other, really helped develop their on-screen relationship as Dewey and Gail. So now I kind of want to watch the rest of the movies to see how their relationship develops, because I have a feeling that's what leads Gail to be Ghostface. Sorry for the spoiler if you want to see Scream 7, but we don't know why she ends up being Ghostface, and now I really want to find out why. So I picture the main character in this book, the Final Girl support group, Lynette, being Sydney Prescott in her 50s, going to therapy for being a final girl in the Scream movies. And I feel like the other final girls in horror movies, like whatever the main character's name is in the Halloween movies, I feel like she would be in the final girl support group also. I've never seen Halloween, so if you've seen Halloween, leave a comment with the final girl's name in that movie, because I don't know her name. In my reread of the final girl support group, I am on page 215. The next reread I did for Winterween was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This is about a girl named Jess who goes down on her luck, so she goes to Paris, France, to go visit her half-brother Ben and stay with him. When she arrives there, she finds that her cousin is missing and nobody can find him. So I really love the interactions that Jess has with the other characters. So, like, the other characters in this book are all super suspicious. The concierge who takes the baggages to the elevator when people come to the apartment, a couple of his neighbors are also suspicious. The other characters' names are Mimi and Sophie. So I just really loved how this plot developed, and I really don't want to spoil it because you might want to read this. Another book by Lucy Foley that I really like is called The Hunting Party, which was turned into a TV show on Amazon Prime last year, and the TV show is not good. Read the book. And then the other Lucy Foley book I've read is The Guest List, which is another 5-star book. This book was pretty close to 5 stars. So as you can see, my reading progress for Winterween is going really well. I will post another video later on tonight with my general reading progress for my other TBR. A few from Manhattan to Stars Hollow books are in this TBR. The Paris Apartment is on from Manhattan to Stars Hollow because it's set in Paris, where Rachel gets her job at Ralph Lauren, at Louis Vuitton at the end of the series, but then ditches it for Ross. And then the main character's cousin is named Ben, like Ross's son. So yeah, I will be back later on tonight with another video, so stay tuned, and I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.